In this video, I'm going to be philosophizing on probability distributions concerning 9, 7, and 5. When we're concerned with self-report and we're trying to improve the effectivenesses and or efficiencies of our inference, direct perceptions hold certain limited processing in terms of the amount of distinct variables one can meaning interpretation at any given time. To increase meaningful effectivenesses and or efficiencies of communication, some existing value is to be well defined to optimize one's thinking in relation to the direction of desired meaningful effect, engaging more meaningfulness in relation to distinct meaningful concerns one holds from moment to moment, engaging experiential processing within the linear range within a self-report to meaning interpretation, complexity within distinct semantic processes and or behaviors one's engaging, meaningfulness within the meaning interpretations, direct and or indirect associations, meaning interpretations concerned with the analytical meaning interpretations, directly and or indirectly associative analytical meaning interpretations, allowance for meaningfulness to be inferred within existing priors. One has easier access to knowledge and or may evaluate the meaningful effectivenesses in relation to most meaningfully one's values, to infer underlying psychological needs, only some underlying psychological needs in relation to one's conduct, inferring distinctions within that conduct to extrapolate from meaningful communications the differences in response associated with one's direct perceptions amongst the limited processing capacities to infer various distinct component parts and processes in relation to mind-body connections, allowancing one to meaningfully satisfy underlying psychological needs in the future, filling in gaps in meaningful information to improve the effectivenesses and or efficiencies in association to the gaps in meaningful information unbeknownst to the self, engaging in the pursuit of meaningfulness within a self-report questionnaire, thinking in terms of the meaningfulness one can derive from engaging the partial self-discovery process within, coming to deepen one's self-knowledge with the elaborations asked of the self to engage in, thinking about the self and experiences from moment to moment in response to distinct scales, 5, 7, 9, meaningfully all more meaningful in terms of providing a fair middle, as to mean there are an equal distribution cut in half by the middle to increase the fairness in terms of one's bias controlled for more honest responding, to select when one does not know or is neutral on issues, a middle instead of being coerced to circle one side or the other, forced to choose left or right, be it one does not meaningfully concern themselves with the sides of a specific topic and or subject matter, one does not even know what they may think on that, or may hold a distinct, entirely different, meaningful meaning interpretation associated with well-defined, clear communications. One could communicate more in detail within writing an essay of 100 words to communicate as to the meaningfulness, why that question is incorrect or does not apply to them. Meaningfulness in this concern, allowances for one to elaborate within the distinct values. One can, with more range within vastness of meaningful interpretations, engage fairer assessments within the linear range. Vastness emerges complexity with concern to 9-point Likert scales, in contrast to 5-point Likert scales, least effective in value in comparison to 5, 7, and 9, yet more meaningfully effective than 3, and which 6-point Likert scales allowance for meaningfulness to develop in terms of multiplying the effectivenesses original to 3, yet lack the meaningful fairness of the middle. 7 provides most meaningfully improvements to 6, allowancing for fair responding, in contrast to 9 providing the most meaningful communications and probabilistic accuracy in terms of predicting the valid and or ultimate psychological truths in association to satisfying the internal and or external conditions to constitute internal and or external validity within the question, and engaging meaningful reporting on the inferences one can infer from existing priors, collecting data meaningful within the communications that do not lead to individuals becoming more exhausted within trying to be precise in terms of the meaningful communications, making the best approximation one may, yet fail to do so, as 11 meaningfully starts to decline the effectivenesses and efficiencies of one's inference, to which, be it 100 options within a survey of even 10 questions, would have meaningfully less effectivenesses and or efficiencies to be able to infer than meaningfully the 9 Likert scale. Interestingly enough, the 9 Likert scale has 5 in the middle of it as its fair center, which is half of 10, allowing for more meaningful inference into the treated 100 percentile, as if 9 is 10, allowing for the best approximations in terms of the most efficient, fewest number of distinct analytical units of analysis one can respond to communicate the subtle distinctions within variation of meaningful intensity, including, be it one is describing meaning and affect concerning only the direction of positive and or negative direction of desired meaningful effects, whereby one is extremely positive and or 9 is extremely negative, be it 5 is neutral or and or undecided, meaning one, as one moves from 4 to 1, 4 increases the positivity of one's response to 5, increasing in positivity to a meaningful moderate, yet low moderate. 6, in contrast to 5, increases the more meaningful negative communications as to meaning and affect. A moderate score of 8 concerns more the moderately intense negative meaning and affect. With distinct responses, one could communicate to provide meaningful reporting in terms of the subtle differences, diminished within 5, increasing the vagueness within response, meaning it's meaningfully more difficult and harder to infer the meaningful similarities within each response one can provide, distinct from 7, which allowances for more meaningful subtle nuances to be distinguished within the meaningful similarities. One may provide more meaningful, accurate approximations correct to the actual factual direct perception, not merely perceived to as one had thought yet did not have thought, the thought one thought they thought, meaning one engages more meaningful truth-telling and communication of the doing of the self-report, allowing for more meaningful inferences into distinct self-reporting. That 9 allowances the most meaningful effectivenesses amongst the variation with uniqueness inherent and innate to the distinct responses one may provide. That's all I want to say for this video. Hope you have an awesome Googling those up.